And the title of the video is, it has one thing. It only does have one thing that makes it any different, really, for me, than any other phone. The thing was, you can now record ProRes RAW on it. Okay, every other feature that it's got, apart from Gen Lock, maybe, it's a phone. You can take photographs, you can watch videos, you can do all these things. It's got a nice screen, it's got cameras. But fundamentally, the thing with the iPhone Pro, the 17 Pro, that was the recording of RAW. Now, this is something that, like, you know, here it is. As filmmakers, content creators have been sort of wanted for a long time. You have to go back in time with what's happened with the RAW thing. Think about this. Okay, so in the 2000s, Nikon and Canon and everybody like that started to allow you to shoot RAW as a still image. And even as a professional photographer today, you do weddings and stuff, you do JPEGs, and your backup would be the RAW, and then you probably work on the RAW, but you could, it all depends on how you work, but you basically shoot in RAW on a professional stills camera. Why would you not? Because RAW gives you the maximum flexibility afterwards to tweak your image and make the most of it. It's got the most information in there and all that stuff. So you'd think that the next step was RAW for video, right? But unfortunately not, because what happened was Red got the patent for RAW. So basically compressed RAW, this is. So that you could not shoot in-camera compressed RAW over like 17 or 18 frames per second. Obviously film's 24 on any camera unless you pay the patent money to Red. Now that, fundamentally, whatever you think about, it's a great business move, has held back filmmaking for years. And because by now, if you've been able to shoot that in camera, we'd all be shooting RAW. This wouldn't be an event. This would be a nothing, because the technologies have been around for years and years and years. Now, they're trying to get around this by shooting CinemaDNG, which is individual still frames of compressed RAW. And the Blackmagic did it in 2010 or 2012 with their cameras. But then obviously the lawyers were circling, and it's sort of like obviously legally it's probably seen as a way around that thing. They're still shooting compressed RAW in camera. So then there was the explosion of external recorder units that could record RAW, because they don't hold the patent to record RAW outside the camera. So Arri, people like that, create recorder boxes outside their cameras that could record RAW out there. Now, this has gone on for years, and Apple have tried, I think it was 2 years ago, they tried to wrestle that lawsuit to, test the validity of the patent law, basically with Red, and failed. And then Nikon have now bought Red. Now, we don't know what happened there. They may loosen up their sort of controls and, the power of this, who can do it. They may reduce license fee, because there's no way Apple are going to pay per unit a patent fee for something like that, because there's billions of iPhones, because you pay per unit. So, and much in the same way as H.264 and H.265 will be phased out eventually, because they'll all use AV1, because that's free, and that's better than the two of them, but it's free, no patents, so no licensing fees. So you'll be seeing the end of H.264 and H.265 in the next 10 years, because AV1 is free. And if you watch Netflix, you'll be watching it in AV1. If you're watching a YouTube video now, you're watching this, that's being streamed to you in AV1, because no one's paying a fee. It's all about business. So there you go. So the iPhone 17 Pro is a brilliant thing, but they still obviously haven't cracked the patent, because the main thing about it is you can record RAW, but you can't record it in the device. So I'm sure this is a shot in the foot for Apple, because they'd want to sell you a 2 terabyte, and they exist, don't they? The Max version has a 2 terabyte storage. They want to sell you a Max version of the phone. They want to sell you the storage, but they can't. You cannot record RAW inside the device. You can record it outside the device. So you get like I've got some jerry-rigged device that you snap it on the back there. You can plug a USB-C cable in. I mean, this is a bit extreme. I mean, there's much more elegant solutions than mine. And now you can record RAW. But, okay, that's a lot of legal mumbo-jumbo about where we are today. But that's the only thing for me. That's the only thing about the iPhone. I would never have upgraded unless they've done this. That's the only feature. I mean, if you look at technology, it gets further and further down the line, and the advancements get less. So with the iPhone, it's amazing. You know, we used to have a BlackBerry, an iPod, and a phone, or sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? We had different devices. That's all in one device. But what else can they give you? Longer battery life. The jumps forward and advancements aren't that big. So I got an iPhone. I had an iPhone 16 Pro, and I thought that was the end of it. Could shoot log, ProRes log. That's great. I knew about the patent thing. I thought they're never going to be in the camera. So this sort of threw me that they've put it in, but they still haven't got around the patent, and you have to record it outside. We watched a lot of reviewers, and they've been very let down by the fact that they can't record the ProRes RAW into the camera, into the body of the iPhone. That's just not going to happen, is it? Think about it. It's always going to be out to an external device. I may eat my words, but if I do, I'll be happy with it, because it meant that you could finally get a device that you can shoot RAW with. So yeah, so I mean, you've got to think it in scale. So Canon, Sony, and all these companies that can record RAW into the actual camera, they've obviously paid the license fee. But the trick is they're releasing, they're releasing 1 million of those units. They're not releasing like hundreds of millions of these units. And the cost point of, my C70 there, £3,000, £4,000, they can fold the license fee in for having compressed RAW inside the camera, inside that goes to the consumer, and then they can pay Red or Nikon now. But obviously with this, it's a consumer device. So, you know, it may be the license fee is $50 inside, or $100 inside £3,000 for a C70. It's not the same as £100 inside one of these devices, because everybody else in here, like Broadcom or Qualcomm or whoever they are, there's other people that require their patents and need to take their piece of the pie. Anyway, okay, so there you go. So that's the thing. The only reason you should buy an iPhone 17 Pro, basically an upgrade, if you want to shoot RAW. Everything else is nonsense. Longer batteries, it's got a bit of a better camera. That's really it. There's nothing compelling apart from that factor. That's the only compelling thing. Anyway, so with that said, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at ProRes RAW off the camera in Final Cut X, Premiere, and finally DaVinci Resolve. I'll just show you how to get some color out of it and how to manage it. And there you go. Okay, so basically let's dive in. Okay, so here we are, Final Cut X, and I brought in some footage. This is ProRes RAW that I shot at Kew Gardens, which is just up the road from here, which is great. So let's just put something in the timeline, have a look. Let's get these. What's that, a little apple? Some nice flowers in it. There we go, let's drag that in. So let's just do a new project, and I'm going to do it 4K, because I've shot open gate. So we'll talk about open gate in a minute. When we get to DaVinci Resolve, it's easy to look at. So here we go, flowers, and it's shot at 25, and it's kind of background rendering ProRes 422, which is fine. Okay, so here's my clip. Let's just get the view a bit bigger for you. So thank you. So straight off the back, because this has been shot open gate, which we'll talk about a bit later. Basically, it's the full sensor scan. So it's a 4:3 aspect ratio. You get more pixels, but it doesn't fit into your standard 16:9. So layout. So to work with it, you need to conform it. So spatially conform it. So basically, click on that one and fill. Now you've lost some of the top and the bottom. I should be able to move it up and down, X and Y. Yeah, so you've lost some of the top and bottom of the picture. There's very little. I think it's about 18 pixels left and right, so it's not much there. But yeah, you've got a little bit of overscan there, so you could work with if you wanted to. So this is the picture stream, and what it's done off the bat, it's trying to convert this into an appropriate color space to work in, because it's been recorded, it's raw, it would be log, there's no LUTs involved, there's no looks, it's the raw sensor data. So what we need to do to fiddle with that is, and it's a bit of a painful part of this, you go to I, information. Here we go, there's the full sensor size. So 42243024. Go all the way down the bottom, and it tells you actually, here we go, progressive, Apple ProRes RAW, linear PCM for the audio, right down here. you've got modified ProRes RAW settings. So in here, you've got processing standard. We'll come to that second one in a minute. You've got the ISO that it was captured at, which you can adjust. So let's make it 200 ISO. There it goes, super bright. Back to 80. And then exposure bias, you can just tweak it, the exposure. And then you've got the captured white balance on the camera. Now, this is one of the beauties, obviously, of RAW. There is none of this stuff is nonsense. So there's no ISO, there's no exposure level. There's no ISO, there's no color temperature or anything. That's just literally numbers which are attached to it. So I can just change the white balance as I see fit. And it's on 50s 91. So there we go. You can just tweak it, which you can't do with a non-RAW format. This does help when you've shot in bad lighting, mixed lighting, and it just looks wrong. And so what they've done, the last part here is it's processing it already into what's called 709 space. So this is what you get, but you can actually send it to Apple log, and then you can, in here, if you wanted to, you could grade it to look how you want it to. You want to work in a log space when you're grading, not in a sort of, you can go from this to log out to 709, but you can manipulate it. I mean, obviously the data is still inside this particular package. The data is still there. It's just underneath that initial look, but you may want to create a completely new look from scratch. So anyway, but because this is iPhone RAW footage, we've got this additional drop down now, which is iPhone ProRes RAW. So you click on that and it gives you some extra options. Now, demosaicing is the process of taking that raw data, turning it into a picture, pretty much. So what it's got standard processing, and you've got custom. So what we can now do is, as it's being brought from RAW into a viewable image, we can tweak the way that it does it. Now you've got color, noise. These are quite, edge contrast really does make it a little bit sharper. Detail enhancement as well. So you can tweak. You can't do that much to it, but you can tweak the way that it looks. So yeah, we've got these extra controls down here. And look, it just does RAW to log, Apple log. So if you get rid of the custom, standard, and go back up to standard, there we go, and then back to ProRes RAW, let's have a look, none. So now it's doing basically no translation. Let's put it to standard, and let's put it back to none. Okay, so that's it, just going to 709. If I make that go to iPhone, it will actually give you a slightly different look. So if you just want to get this out the door quickly and not have to grade heavily, what you basically want to do is just go to standard. I mean, you can fiddle around. I mean, let's put it out to Apple log 2. See, if you go this way, iPhone RAW, Apple log 2, now you can put a lot on it to get it back again, he says. Here we go. I don't really work in this that much. And you should have a camera light. Here you go. And now you've got a lot the other way. So if I pop that over the top, it should come back. So you can either let it make it, so it's like color management. You can either let it make its own way of doing this, or you can put the lot over the top. You can grade underneath it, and you can get a bit more from it. Let's have a look at the color things. Let's give it a bit of contrast. Enhancer, auto. Yeah, right. Control Z. Okay, but you can do corrections. So you've got color wheels, color boards, color curves. Let's give it a bit more. It's just, I don't know if this is ganged or not. No, it's not ganged. So you want to, can you gang it in this? I don't know. Anyway, view simple curve. Okay, so view all curves. No, single curve. Okay. We'll come to this in Resolve. Really want to just group them, give it an S curve, things like that, add contrast. But yeah, so there you go. That's the controls you've got in there. I mean, for a quick turnaround, maybe you should shoot different format. If you were just trying to, if you don't want to do a lot of work on it, sometimes you don't need to shoot RAW. Sometimes, just like the photographer with his JPEGs, sometimes JPEGs will be enough. So you can just do that. So you've got HVEC in there, so you can just use that. So it really seamless, hopefully, well, it should be, shouldn't it, in Final Cut, because it's their own product. So seamless workflow in Final Cut. You can just edit it. Any more information, if you need information, up here we go. So it gives you all there. One stereo channel, progressive, time code, And that's another thing you can do. You've got Genlock now on the phone, which means you can synchronize the iPhone with multiple devices, which is very handy if you're multicamming. I had to edit a multicam the other day. They'd shot it on 3 phones. There's no Genlock on it. They just thought the audio would be fine. But when you pull the ProRes files in, because they shot it on Blackmagic camera and they hadn't switched the thing correctly to the time thing, the speed of the clips were going from 22 frames per second to 29. So it was all over the shop. So thankfully it was a very short clip and we didn't get much drift. But if you want to shoot properly, you need to lock a time code in for 3 cameras or 2 cameras. So you can basically, in edit, you can't rely on the audio all the time to do your multicam. Well, if it's a short thing, you can, but it drifts. So, you know, if you were doing an hour-long production with 3 iPhones, those ones these guys used the other day, over time, you'd all drift out of sync. So, especially with the nightmare, the fact that it's not doing constant frame rate, it's doing 22 to 29, it's making up a frame rate as it goes. So, yeah, so Genlock's a gift. So Genlock, the RAW is brilliant. Anyway, so let's jump into Premiere. I hate Premiere, but I'm going to open it up. So let's just go have a look at that. Okay, so here we are on Premiere. I've got a load of clips here. They're on the iPhone, so I'm going to just make a timeline. Forgive my, I don't really know how this works very well. I try not to spend any time in this. It's let me down on so many occasions. I've sort of moved on from Premiere. It's a dim and distant nightmare. Create new timeline, new sequence and clip. Yeah, I've had work that, like deadline work, massive edits you click render and it's exploded. And so DaVinci Resolve's never done that to me. And nor Final Cut X, actually, it's never let me down. But Premiere has let me down so many times. I can't imagine. And it's always on the biggest projects, which are complicated. So it's not great for me. So I don't do it. I pay the subscription purely for Photoshop. Anyway, here it is. The clips I shot. There's a giant fish, Kew Gardens. So there's that flower shot again. Now, in here, you can see it's done the same thing. So it's actually made the sequence, how much sequence settings? But here you can see that it's done it directly to that 4224 thing. So I need to change that, don't I? He says maximum bit depth. I don't really get involved with what's going on technically in here, but anyway, let's just do 3840 and we'll make it 2160. Is that going to let me do that? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so there it is. It seems to have popped in. I don't know if that's correct, but it seems to have popped into the right framing there for 4K. Anyway, up here, apparently, you've got an effects control. Not that one, the source. Okay, so you've got very, very limited controls. Maybe Adobe will do more, don't care. But I mean, maybe Adobe will do more in here. But you can basically, it's transforming it from log into BT709, which is whatever. You've got BT 2020, which is transferring into high dynamic range. And then you've got all the other ones. You've got CinemaDNG, D-Log, that's DJI drone stuff. And then the Sony stuff. So you can just go like that. Then obviously I think you've got, if we put it into, there's no Apple log. So, okay, that's a bit of a problem. So let's put it to, I'm sure that'll come in an update. Let's put it to, I don't know, CinemaDNG C-Log 2, that's Canon. And then you can go into Lumetri color, input LUT. No, there's nothing in there. And you can put one of their LUTs over it. Yeah, right, okay. But anyway, so that's it, really. You've got very limited control over what you do with the RAW in here. If you're grading material in Adobe Premiere Pro, then I weep for you, really. It's not a good place to be. Anyway, so let's look at a proper program. Let's look at DaVinci Resolve. Okay, so here we are. We're home free. We've got out of Final Cut X. We've escaped from Adobe and we're in a proper program. We're in Resolve. Okay, so here you are, you're in the media bin and I brought those clips in. And obviously over here, you can have a look and look at the metadata. So you can see I've got 14, there it is, 422, there's just got 2 channels of audio, all the information is down here. So let's make a timeline. Now, I'm going to grab all those clips, create new timeline from source, and then go through those settings. Now, so format, we want it to go to UHD, but it's not going to fit properly. So we just do that all in one go by full scale to full frame with crop. Monitoring, we're monitoring. I don't have a monitor attached to this. Outputs, yep, we want it 4K out, and then color. Now, mine defaults to DaVinci Wide Gamma RGB, so that should give me a log picture at the other end. And we'll do that for now before we fiddle with what's called color management. So create. So there we go. There's my timeline. And everything's, there we go. Everything's sort of popped in and it's framed properly. Now we're in log. We're in Apple log. So we want to, you know, we can use lots. This is the most basic way to do this. Well, I'll just take you through a few steps here. So the most basic way, let's do those flowers. So the most basic way to get color out of this is just literally to apply a lot. You know, I just do it with a note tree. There we go. So basically put a lot at the end, lot, and it's in here. Do they have an Apple one? Can't see it. But let's put something on here just to give you, let's put the arrow light. It won't look right. So that's the arrow light, but it gives you the color back. There should be, I think if you go to Apple developers, you can actually get the LUTs for this. And then you can put them in your LUT folder in this, and you can use them if you just want to grade under a LUT. So there's that, really basic, or you can manually do it. So let's just do that manually. So let's do, now this is a lot of fiddling. So let's go back to that one. But I mean, this is our ultimate control. So let's just drop down the signal on the right hand side, expand the signal on the top end, and we'll move that a bit. That's a good bit to start. Let's do the next one. Let's put a bit of saturation into it, get a bit more color. And the last one, let's do a bit of, let's give it a bit of a curve to give it a bit of contrast. You've got kind of a bit dark. So then you can go back to your beginning one and start to fiddle again and make sure, then balance your image off on all of these. So let's just drop that down. That grain's too much, it's clipping. Bring that down. Bring up the gamma. And you can play around and get the image that you want manually just through those three controls. So put, you know, basically you want to expand the signal, give it some color, and put some contrast into it, and then you've got your image. Obviously, you know, that's reset the node, reset that one. I could have done more, but I didn't. Okay, so let's have a quickly look at the Bayer settings in here, which, if you remember in Final Cut X, you had certain controls. Now, in here you have the same ones. You've got, you don't have it in Premiere, you don't have anything in there, but you've got the same stuff. You've got RAW to log. You've got your log. You can switch it to iPhone or standard. Standard gives you a lot more sort of outputs to your log. But the ProRes RAW one for the iPhone is very specific to log 2. But in here again, you've got your edge contrast, color noise. I may, because it's a bit easier to work in this, I may show you what that actually does. You can see sort of what it does. So what I'll do another way of doing this. I'll add a color space transformation. And then we do DaVinci Wide. We got, what is it? Apple log coming in. We're going to go out DaVinci Wide Gamma, and we're going to go out DaVinci Intermediary. And at the other end, we're going to put another color space transformation on it, and we're going to come in DaVinci Wide Gamma, Intermediary, and we're going to go out Rec 709. Gamma 2.4, Gamma 2.4. There's our picture. So now I've basically brought in brought in the log. I've color dress space transformed it, put it into a little, this area here means I can fiddle around in the large DaVinci Wide Gamma. I can fiddle around the largest color space possible, and then it squelches it down to get it out to be a picture at the other end. So we need to do every operation under here. So what I'll do, I'm going to zoom right in. It's got Apple log 2. Have I got Apple log 2? Yeah. I'm going to zoom right in on this. And I think I can do this with Control F, probably, or Option F. I think it's Control F that you can go to full screen. I don't know if I can do on here. Is it Control F or Shift F? I'm not going to do it. Don't do it that often. Anyway, so let's just zoom in and let's just fiddle with these controls. So detail enhancement. If I ramp that all the way up, can you see any changes? It's minuscule. Now, I did have this before, exposure bias, edge. Is it doing anything? Interesting. I can't see it actually doing anything in that. Maybe you have to do it in a different pipeline. Sharpness balanced, raw. Switch off the white balance, that's better. Let's have another look at this. I can't see it. Maybe there's a step I need to do here. I can't see that doing anything. Let's clear the pipeline down. These are all nodes and grades. And let's switch to another way of doing this. Let's go back to the timeline settings. And now we're going to use what's called DaVinci Color Management, which allows you to just sort of like, it sort of knows what's coming in and it gives you the best approximation out. So it just pumps out to color processing mode SDR. Output color space is Rec 709. Boom. And that's actually pretty close, isn't it, really? So now let's have a look and see if these raw controls work. They didn't seem to work with the CST edge contrast. I can't see any changes there. Clip. Just checking I've got everything set here. Standard, demosaicing, custom, idiot. Okay, I didn't have the custom tab. Now that should work. Here we go, color noise. Edge contrast, there it is. Well, that now works. So you need to have that switched to custom on the tab. So there you go. So that's edge contrast and edge detail enhancement. So you can see that's really fiddling with the imagery. Let's just reset those. Is that a good thing? Is that a good thing? Color noise. Now that color noise seems to be really affecting you down the scopes at the bottom here, where you can't see, they're probably under my picture, but the blue channel's really going bananas when you do that. And then you've got the edge contrast. Let's see, let's ramp those right up and see what the image does. There you go. It's a lot. That's over sharpened, isn't it? It's a lot over sharpened. Anyway, let's bring those down. So you've got those controls in there as well. I mean, that needs some color. That doesn't. Yeah, that needs a bit of color in there. Let's just put a bit of color back into that saturation. That's much more like what it was. Interesting. So there's 1, 2, 3. One last way. Let's do aces. Can't forget aces. Aces is very similar to wrong one. Aces is very similar to DaVinci Color Management, but it's a standardized Academy encoding science something or other. But it's very much like because DaVinci Color Management is Blackmagic's, and it's Blackmagic's, but the Aces is basically anybody's. It's open sourced as such, and you can transfer between everybody. The standards are the same. So if you've got a VFX shot and you're working in Aces, and then you can transfer it to another thing, and everybody's got the same stuff. So it's very much what's used in production. So let's do Aces to output color space transformation, output to 709. He says, where are you? 709 BT, there it is. Okay. So it looks totally similar, right? But all you're doing is you're working, well, just pop this bit orange. Have I still got this saturation on there? I've got something going on there. Let's reset it. There might be color shifts though, because they're the profiles involved in what's called ODTs and RRTs are slightly different. So you do get tweaks in different cameras, different interpretations. It's all sort of open to usage. Let's do that. Full res clip, and you've lost the raw to log controls here. Let's just put a bit of color into that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there you go. There's Final Cut, there's Adobe Premiere, and now DaVinci Resolve. So I just sort of summarize. You've got ProRes RAW recording on an iPhone, and then there's 3 ways to manipulate that material and get more from it. So if you think about it with, back to stills photography, you've got like Capture One, you've got Lightroom, you've got raw therapy, Darktable, tons and tons of tools to manipulate your raw images. Now, most editing packages have it as well, allow you to play with the raw material. And, you only really want to, it's compressed raw as well, so it's great. You only really want to, going forward, you should always think like this. You should, you don't need to always shoot raw. There are certain situations where you've got such a rapid turnaround that you can't do it. You shoot it with 709 over the top and fire it out the door. I mean, I've been in plenty of those, like news gathering, all that kind of stuff. You just don't have the time to grade. But if you're doing any kind of work that has, something that you've got time with, then you want to capture the highest quality. But now you can do it on the phone, not internally. Now you can do it on the phone, and you can play with it. You've got more dynamic range baked into a raw image. You've got more latitude to play with it if you've made a mistake with the lighting. So always shoot raw if you can, but obviously if it's a rapid turnaround, you want to bang something out the door, then you've got ProRes on there already. You've got, which is a great a great codec, and you've got H.264 and H.265. So what ProRes RAW opens up to us is now you've got a lot more latitude to do much more creative work with video content, finish it better, and get the best from the camera. So for me, that's the one thing. That is the one thing about that phone which made me buy it. If in the future you could ever record it internally, which I doubt for the reasons I've stated at the beginning of the video, then maybe I'll upgrade. But that's it for me. I thought we got to the iPhone 16. I thought, okay, that's enough. They can't do anything else here. I mean, I can't, there's no technology they can build into this that would make it better. I mean, I've got like a proper, I've got like 5C R5s to shoot stills on. I've got Canon cameras to shoot main video on. This doesn't serve a purpose in many ways for the video capture for me, because you can't match it up. Now, that's one of the big tricks. Because it's raw, it's easier to match between cameras. Okay. So, I mean, I'll do a whole video on camera matching between Canon and iPhone RAW, so you can match the footage. There's tons of videos. There's some brilliant, like Darren Mostyn and guys like that, colorists on there, who will explain how to do, camera matching and stuff like that with the videos. But now you don't have to do ProRes RAW, ProRes to, something else. You've got Canon and iPhone. It's easier to match. So if you've got 3 cameras, say you were shooting some side bits on an iPhone, it's easier to match it in with the bigger cameras. So you can use them as crash cams, a 1,000-pound crash cam. You can use them, in small locations. I mean, I remember the first time I saw a Blackmagic 2.5K camera used absolutely perfectly, because they were quite small. It was stuck in a cupboard, and the actor had to open the cupboard door, and you got that shot of his face, and you could see over the top. And to pull that shot off, normally you'd have to take the entire back of the cupboard out in the kitchen and get the camera around the back. But this, they just popped it in, press record, shut the door, he opens it, and acted his whole scene out directly in front of it. So, I mean, the small size of the cameras is brilliant. So you can do a lot with these. Anyway, I hope that video is useful. If you've got any questions about what I got up to in there, just put them in the comments. Always happy to help. All right, anyway, thanks for watching.